this morning's webinar is around powering client management using Synergist. So just before we dive into the webinar and the demo, just a quick introduction. My name's Steve. I'm one of the co-founders and directors here at the Agency Works. We are the exclusive implementation and client success partner for Synergist, which, if you don't know, is the UK's leading agency management system. Now, I've worked with agencies for well over 25 years now, and they could be small independent or kind of larger integrated agencies. But we do see often the same sort of problem with each agency, and it's kind of agency clients who perhaps aren't as profitable as they should be, or teams perhaps pulling in different directions, growth that comes at the cost of kind of team burnout, or perhaps too much work that's being given away for free. So that's where the agency works. We help agencies by fixing that, so by putting in correct processes and different systems, not always just to improve margins, but to help make day-to-day life easier for client services, delivery, and leadership teams. So everything that I'll cover today is based on what works in real agencies, not just on theory, because we know that client management is a constant balancing act. So you're juggling multiple clients, projects, conversations, emails, maybe phone calls, maybe Slack channels, but they're all in people's heads. And you're expected to keep clients happy and grow accounts, even when most of your time is done with delivering work. So that's often how overservicing happens. Scope creeps, margins erode, and often without anybody taking notice. The data you need to stay in control is, as I said, scattered across multiple systems, spreadsheets in people's heads, and that's hopefully the problem that we'll be tackling today. So this session it's designed to be a kind of short, sharp session, just looking at certain aspects of the system. As usual, should last around 15 to 20 minutes. But in today's session, I'm going to hopefully show you how Synergist can help you make the client management process actually quite manageable. So we'll look at four things. We're looking at staying on top of the relationships by tracking interactions, activities, and having tasks in one place so nothing gets forgotten. Keeping, hopefully, your projects profitable, so setting clear targets, having real-time visibility and early warning signs when over-servicing is starting to creep in. Spotting opportunities to grow existing clients, so seeing exactly which services you're using and the ones they're not. And then finally, making better decisions using real data so you can focus your time and energy on the clients that actually drive value to your agency. And hopefully by the end, you should have a clearer picture of how to manage clients more proactively, protecting margins while still delivering a great client experience. Now, of course, it's one thing for me to stand here and tell you how wonderful the Synergist is, but I think it's more powerful to hear that from agencies who are using it day to day. Here's a great quote from an operations lead at an agency that's using Synergist, and I think in summary, this quote shows us, the shift that this agency had from using instinct to kind of more evidence-based, having reliable project and delivery data to help sharpen visibility, driving better commercial decisions and costing and quoting, all the way through to briefing and alignment. So because Synergist adapts to their workflows, it works with the teams rather than against them. Now, before we dive into the demo, for those who don't actually know anything about Synergist, as I mentioned, it is the UK's #1 agency management software, as recently reported in the agency bench press survey. Now, that's a survey that's conducted by a company called Wow. They are actually just released the survey for 2026, and I read this morning that they've got, I think, over 500 agencies already contributed. So if you are interested in the insights that presents, or you're interested in getting part of it, then as I said, head over to the Wow company website, and you'll have access to add your responses. Okay, but as regards to Synergist, we are trusted by over 500 agencies. The system's highly configurable. So again, whether you are a creative agency, digital marketing, PR, or basically any other type of professional service business, it can be tailored to fit the way that you work. Why do so many agencies choose Synergist? Well, you might recognise this picture. A lot of agencies we speak to end up stitching together lots of different tools. So you've got tools for budgets, for briefs, sales pipeline, maybe one for resourcing, project tracking, separate invoicing. And the result of it is that it all becomes quite slow and fragmented, and it's really hard to get one clear, accurate picture of what's happening across the business. So hopefully that is where Synergist comes in. It brings all those processes from sales, project delivery, resourcing, invoicing, all into one system, which hopefully will save you time, improve visibility, and help you run more efficiently and hopefully more profitably. Okay, so there's a bit about the background. I'm now just going to need to switch screens to show you the presentation, the demo. And I'm also going to turn my camera off so you can see more of the screen and less of me, which I'm sure you won't mind. So bear with me a second. Okay, hopefully now you can all see my screen okay. Right. Okay, so we're going to start here. This is our personal dashboard. And I'm starting here because typically this is the screen that most users would choose as their home screen. So when you log into Synergist, this is typically what you're presented with. And I'm starting here as well because this is where really kind of day-to-day behavior really changes. So every user in Synergist has their own personal dashboard and they can tailor this to reflect what they're accountable for. So if I was in client services, what I had in my dashboard may be completely different to somebody who's in finance as well. So from here, this is where you can look at what tasks are due. For others, you might want to set it up so it provides access to and identifies projects that are drifting or perhaps clients are overspending. Or maybe you want to set the tiles up to show you things that haven't happened. So that could be things where you have, I don't know, revenue that hasn't been recognized or jobs that don't have billing forecasts or jobs that are awaiting invoice. So basically you can customize this, but if something needs intervention, then you'll see it here. Okay, so that's kind of what I wanted to start on the personal dashboard. It's very customizable. So now let's zoom out of this and look at how I manage the work itself in my own task Kanban. Now I can access that through kind of going through the tiles, or I can just go through it to the task Kanban board menu item itself. Okay, so again, this is where most of your users will actually run their day-to-day tasks. So each person, like the personal dashboard, has their own Kanban board. So it brings together everything they're responsible for, and it could be across multiple clients, it could be across multiple teams, multiple types of work. It doesn't just have to be tasks for one project, although you can see that too. Teams can also use either templated Kanban boards that you've created, or if you give them access to, then you can create custom Kanban boards as well. So here, for example, you can see immediately what's coming up, what's in progress, and what's blocked. So I've created a Kanban board with different swim lanes, to do, on hold, working on it, done, and you can literally move tasks between them. So as I said, multiple different types of Kanban boards. You don't have to all use the same, depending on which department you're in. Okay, when it comes to the tasks, they're also highly flexible too. So tasks, and I've seen them used in lots of different ways in different agencies, but they can represent different things. It could be delivery work, it could be internal actions, it could be client comms, like kind of phone calls or follow-ups. It could be emails. So through email integration, you can BCC an email and you can copy it back into Synergist. So anything that's relevant from a client or a prospect can be copied back in, so you have a audit trail of the communication that you've had. Now, in my example, I've chosen, so you can see here, the ones we've got created in our demo system, so project wrap-ups, phone calls, emails. I've chosen studio requests because by choosing the different task type, allows the system to work in different ways. Because I've chosen this one, it's now presented me with the options, because it might be that I want some amends that are outside the original estimate. I can decide how many hours I want. I might have a preferred resource. I might have a preferred resource type. I might also want to include a checklist. So again, these are optional and you can have these templated. So, what are the things that we want people to go through before they complete this task? And as they complete them, you can see that we get a percentage update in terms of completion. Okay. At the bottom is where I can track any comments, history of the comments, or a bit of both. And this shows me kind of like an audit trail. Who's interacted with this? Who's added comments? Who's changed things? So again, it's a real kind of nice audit trail. We also get different categories appear. So again, just for the ease of reporting, has this task got a certain category, status, priority? Do we want to identify who our contact is at the client end? Is this a task that's related to a certain team or individual within our business? Do we have what we call watchers? So this is the ability to add people who need to be updated. So they're not perhaps responsible for this task, but if something changes, the system can alert them to that. And then finally at the bottom we have start and due dates and reminders to drive any sort of notifications. So tasks that are approaching a due date or tasks that are overdue, that kind of stuff. Again, so lots of different ways of using tasks, but really, really flexible. There's also the ability as well to add attachments. So this can be done through a task. It can be done through a client or a job as well. But it's basically anything that lives outside of Synergist that is relevant to this task. So in this case here, it might be a briefing document. Now, how we attach that, we have different options. It might be that we've created in the back end of Synergist a series of briefing templates, because what we want the system to do is merge information from the client or the job and drop that onto our template to save recreating it. It might be that I've just uploaded a briefing document that sits outside of Synergist, or it might be that you just want a simple URL link. So again, each of those can be attached, or the final option you have as well is linking this to a file cloud storage system. So if you've got a repository of client information that you keep outside of Synergist, again, we can have links to that. So when this task gets delivered, they also have access to those documents too. Okay. So as I said, tasks, really flexible, and different people can use them in different ways. But also, if you are using them for things like studio requests, where needed, your team can also track time against these activities. So that gives you better visibility into the effort without forcing heavy admin on that. So we can also record time against these. And then finally, if this task suddenly becomes chargeable, then we can convert a task very quickly at one click into a live job, which kind of keeps your delivery time and revenue all connected. So basically, using tasks gives you clear ownership of actions, better continuity across accounts, and far fewer things, hopefully, slipping through the cracks. Okay, so next we're going to zoom out from individual tasks and look at the different client level. And this is where we start to define what success looks like for a client. So if I just go into a client record card, okay, so I'm in Lloyd's Banking Group. So rather than reporting being something that happens retrospectively at month end, the client dashboard gives you a live view of how that relationship is performing commercially and operationally. And importantly, this data is driven directly from everything that we've updated in the system. So, for example, for Lloyd's here, yes, if I can look at kind of the detail of the client, I can store all my contacts and their contact information. But the dashboard is quickly showing me performance. So how much have we invoiced today? What's our gross or net profit? Is that based on what's been invoiced or what's been recognised? So again, depending on how your system is set up, will depend on what those figures show. It shows me a very quick invoice forecast. So actually, what have we planned to invoice against what we actually have invoiced? I can see current turnover to date. But the figure that I think is probably most important, more important, is what we term investment. So this figure is calculated, and it's basically your under over recovery. It's the difference between what we've invoiced a client compared to what we should have invoiced them for the work we've delivered. So because we're tracking time purchases into the system, then in this case here, for example, we may have invoiced 125 grand, but we should have invoiced 150 based on the work we've delivered. Therefore, we've under recovered to the tune of 25 grand. And that 25 grand would sit in a little pot called client investments. So really clearly now I can see either on the client record card or across a report for multiple clients, which clients are taking up more time than they're paying for. So again, it's not a profitability figure, but it does really kind of highlight where you are kind of spending more time than you're billing for. Okay, those tasks that we've created, I can collectively see here at this level. Those attachments I can collectively see at client level as well. But I just wanted to show you the target section, because this will kind of filter through to the reporting that we'll look at in a second. For every account, for every client, if you're looking to grow the account in particular, then you may say, right, okay, we've reported on new business, but we're now looking at using or growing existing business. So what I can do is I can create a series of targets. And those targets can be driven by turnover, gross, net profit, don't have to be all three, but you can choose how you do that. And it might be that you just apply a target over different periods. You might have a cumulative target for the account that you want to grow by 500,000 a year, in which case we can evenly spread load that over the year. Or you may want to apply different targets to different months, particularly if the work you do with them is seasonal. So again, whichever option you've got, we can then use this data, and we'll look at that in a second, and we look at the reporting side of things. Okay, so once we've done that, we're now going to zoom out to client level, and we're now going to look at where we're digging a bit deeper. So we're going to look at kind of where we can see all the jobs. I can look at jobs here individually on the client, but I want to look at this basically in my job list so I can add more columns. So if we go a level deeper, we can see all jobs for this client and also how they're tracking. So this is where most agencies often spot issues, hopefully earlier. So you might have jobs that look fine on the surface, but actually they are eroding margins, or there's work being done that's over servicing, not being charged for. And the value here isn't about micromanagement, it's about early visibility so you can intervene while there's still time. So in Synergist, you can choose different columns. I've chosen to filter my job list just to show me the Lloyd's jobs because that's the account I look after. I've also chosen my different columns, and I want to see, in this view, estimated natural hours, and that as a percentage view. I want to see the value of work we've delivered against what's been quoted. So again, I can hopefully capture jobs that are approaching budget and therefore going into overservicing. And also ask it to show me what's been invoiced and what our profit is to date. So that's fine because I'm the account director on Lloyd, so that's an interesting view. I might though want to create different views, and here you can see you can have multiple views across the business. Now, I've now created a different view, same jobs, just switch the view and switch the columns, because in this view, it's now showing me, yes, I can see actual to estimated hours, and on this top job, we've burnt half of the time. But if I factor in what's booked in the calendar to deliver later, then actually we're not 53%, we're more like 66%. So again, whether I'm looking at managing my jobs from a financial point of view or from a resourcing point of view, the system's giving me the data to hopefully capture things before they go wrong. I can also switch this view as well. So here this is looking at a list of jobs. I can switch the view to look at billing plans. So if I was in finance and I wanted to look at an individual client and I wanted to look at what we planned to invoice, what we had invoiced and what we planned to recognise or what we had recognised, then again, this is a kind of a report we see done in a spreadsheet across multiple agencies. But this gives me that view. So I can start to see here what we've planned, what we've invoiced or recognised in prior periods, and what's due to be recognised or planned to be recognised in future periods. You've also got the ability to look at multiple Gantt charts. So if you want to look at multi-job Gantt charts, so rather than just looking at a job in isolation, then you might say, okay, well, if we've got a number of jobs for this client, where are their clashes? Do they all need to be delivered in the same period? So here I've got different jobs with different start and end dates, and I can simply look at all these kind of deliverables and dependencies of each, so we can identify if there's a clash. Now, that's looking at this just for one client. Obviously, I can do this for multiple clients and multiple jobs. Okay, so that's looking at the job side of things. Now, everything you've seen so far, tasks, jobs, kind of client delivery, all rolls up into analytics. Now, this is where agencies then move from kind of simply kind of tracking activity and actually making better decisions. So you're not limited to, there's lots of fixed standard reports, but you can then start to report on exactly the data you care about. And you can use filters, you can use ranges, custom columns, cross tabs. So basically you can create the numbers that you want to reflect to see when you run the business. So that data can be visualized. If I go back to my dashboards, we looked at the personal one. I'm now going to look at my data analytics tool. So here the data can be visualized, and it could be in charts or tables. It can be downloaded from presentations. It can be exported into Excel. It can be exported into Power BI or some sort of other reporting tool if required. Your reports also though can be saved and added directly to this, which is your analytics dashboard. So they're always available, and as soon as data is updated, they're rebuilt automatically. So there's no kind of rebuilding them from scratch. So in my example here, I've created one which tracks my clients' targets. So for the 4 clients I'm in charge of, what's the target GP, what's the actual GP, a calculation is then done in terms of remaining, and a calculation is done in terms of percentage target. You might want to look at that differently though. So this one here now is looking at similar sort of data. So now I've got months down the left-hand side in different columns, target turnover, target confirmed, but also represented in a chart. This one here, again, slightly different. I've now consolidated it, but I've also incorporated not just turnover and confirmed work, but also what potentially is a high probability in our pipeline, because we want to factor that into our reports as well. And again, I could look at that in a different format. So this time now, I've just taken the same sort of data and looked at it for the business or the agency as a whole. So my company is called the Golden Agency. I've got target turnover, percentage confirmed, and that again shown as graphically. So what I want to try to show you here is that all the data that we're collecting around clients, around jobs, around profitability can be represented and kind of presented in different formats, and again can be added onto your dashboard so you kind of see this as soon as you log in. The other one I want to show you as well, just for the sake of today's demo, was identifying how much you're doing based on your different service levels. So in our demo data set, we have kind of 3 job levels. We have three job types, 3 service levels: design, digital, PR. Now I can look at this for the agency, how much are we doing in design, different to PR, or I might do this for a client. So actually, are there services that we have in the agency that we're not cross-selling to our clients, in which case then I can get a kind of a view of what that might look like. But as I said, you can also kind of share these reports across different groups. You can schedule them as well, or you can get them to be delivered automatically by email, which again just removes a lot of the kind of manual reporting headaches. But basically, we're trying to get to the point where it's less manual reporting, more consistent insight, and far better commercial decision making. Okay. So hopefully what we've shown here is that you've got that kind of one continuous flow of information from individual action to client delivery to hopefully some trusted reporting. And the benefit is better clarity, fewer spreadsheets, less manual effort, and far more confidence in both client performance and the commercial outcomes. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this little short webinar and demo for you. I hope you found it useful. If Synergist did look of interest to you and you want to dig a bit deeper and look at some of the other areas alongside the client management, do let us know, do reach out. We will share this recording with you later on for those who haven't been able to view live or share with your team. We'll also have this uploaded to our YouTube channel. So alongside the Masters, Agency Masters webinars we do, we've got Jay's A Game, we've got some other Powers webinars as well. So head over to the YouTube channel, lots of content on there. And yeah, if there's anything we can help you with, please do let us know. And hopefully we get to speak soon. Thanks.